class yesterday. Okay. I said that in fact, before we start, I really want to go once more around and ask all the participants if they could take 30 seconds or whatever time to as to what problems or what they would like me to discuss, because there was some confusion, at least in my mind, what today's topic is. So if there are a couple of topics, we can deal with both of them, but at least I'd like to know what are the what's on your mind. Can you start?
Sure, Prabhu. I can start. I mean, I would like to know more about how to balance our material life, like bringing up children, going to office every day, and say at the same time balancing my spiritual priorities, like getting up early, chanting my rounds. Kind of, they both sometimes clash each other. So how to balance both of them?
Okay. All right.
Maybe this.
Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Sorry, my video is not working. I think there is some fault in my camera, so I cannot come on video. So I'll just try to join from mobile in some time. What I am looking forward from this session is like balancing spiritual and spirituality. So in family life, sometimes we have many challenges, like when we don't have like other family members are like full time into devotion, and like my husband and
just 1 second, there's some crosstalk going on.
sorry.
Can we turn mute? Yeah, go ahead now. Now please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So in those cases when you're supporting, husband is not into full-time devotion, then and sometimes you are like, you want to progress in bhakti and you think of like quitting your job. So you hear from your family that now you are into devotion, so now you don't want to work hard. You just you have chosen a easy way to do bhakti. So how should we, convince, or how should we continue both? So this is what I'm looking forward, which I'm in fact anyway trying to manage. This is what my problem.
Anyone else?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat. Apart from what I think Hare Krishna Prabhu and Sailavashni Mataji asked, I would also like to understand how to maintain the relationships with the devotees, because when we come into the temple services, it becomes difficult at times, the difference of opinion or the way we want to execute something. Sometimes we have been, asked or forced to do something in a certain way that we do not even like to do. How to maintain that consciousness even in to performing that services, so that we do not destroy or exploit our relationship with the devotees.
No. Anyone else? Yes. So I guess we can start. Basically, what I'm hearing is to know about balancing material life and spiritual life, and then this conflict with the family members is part of that, balancing the material life and spiritual life. Every devotee goes through that, and then relationships with devotees.
Prabhuji, I'm sorry, I had my hand up. I wanted to say something.
Oh, okay.
The purpose behind this topic is that we would like to hear from you, especially when there are two particularly similar looking or equal priority opportunities to serve in Krishna consciousness. Could be related to family and the temple, could be related to within the temple, could be related within the family, could be one sadhana versus helping the family or helping others to advance. So within two similarly important looking spiritual priorities, how does one make a choice? Apart from, Guru Sadhu Shastra, but it's some general yardsticks which you have applied in so many years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that's also a nice topic. I have some points on that too. So since Rishi Kumar Prabhu is our leader, maybe I can address what he has, what he's asking. And one thing that I want to uh, let all the devotees know, I rarely do one-way speaking. And it is okay for all of you one at a time, and just to raise your hand, and if you have a question, or you can send me through chat. I guess I should check the chat, and I will either answer at the same time, or I can I'll note the question down, and then I'll answer it later. So please do not hesitate to I mean, not interrupt, but at least to ask questions. Let me ask you one more thing. Every once in a while, for emphasis or for clarity, if I use a Hindi word or two, does everyone know Hindi? Just bring it a little bit more sort of personal touch into everything. But I've noticed this when I speak in Hindi, it is a tendency to use English words to give some emphasis. And when you speak English, it is the other way around. So unless somebody has an issue, and generally I also repeat the Hindi word into English also. So with that, let's start. Om Agyanam Trimindasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshuntam Yene Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha. Prabhuji asked Rishi Prabhu about if you have two tasks, in the temple itself, in spiritual wise, then what takes priorities? And the first answer, I made some bullet points on my phone, I guess if we were all in the material life, the answer is pretty simple. Yeah, if you're given choices, from a very karmic perspective, in America they say, whatever gives me the maximum bang for the buck, whatever with the least amount of money I can get the most. And the other thing is, what wasn't for me. Material life is very selfish. It's very selfish. We all know that. And so, but the spiritual life, the answer, I think the first answer is, and it's not a cop-out, is it depends. Time, place, circumstance, it depends. In fact, I've always glorified Srila Prabhupada in this way. There have been so many spiritual masters, and there have been so many, from in other sampradayas, very qualified, but the one of the unique things about Srila Prabhupada was that he was blessed. He was a master at Desh, Kal, and Patra, time, place, circumstance. If we read his letters, and sometimes it becomes very confusing for new devotees. Well, I read this letter and Prabhupada is saying this, and then somebody says, no, I read this and he's saying this. What they forget, I always ask devotees when that happens is, have you gone back and tried to find out, especially in letters, what is the background when a devotee wrote to him? Okay. Now, his authorized, whatever he writes in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, CC, in the books. In fact, I was asking my son Radhikaraman, all of you know him, and there used to be a time he used to take guidance from me, now I take from him. Same thing with Rishi Kumar Prabhu. He told me that maybe I started corporate printing, but I'm still, a lowly retired person, and he's become vice president of another parts of the Mandir. Amoglila Prabhu has got more than 1 million followers. So मैं कह रहा था कि गुरु गुड़ रहे चेला चीनी हो गए, and that's very nice. So that so that's what I'm saying is, so whatever. So Radhikaraman said that generally from an academic perspective, and Prabhupada did that, that whatever he wrote in the Bhagavatam, that was like the top level. That was not subject to any questioning. That was the principle. So his purpose, Rupa says that his purpose are as important as the translations. And that's very true. He didn't say out of pride or something. It was out of really, it made sense. And then whatever he writes in letters or articles, there he said, and I've done that all my life too, is I try to go back and say, well, what was happening at that time that he gave that instruction? And so generally, and then there's another, and I'm going to just sort of journal, and then I'll come to specifics. But I think most of you probably have in the temple or your own personal copy. The devotees published a 3-volume Prabhupada Shiksha Mitra, where he has all they took quotations from the Shastras, his purpose in the Bhagavatam, etc., and his letters, and put them in different topics, and in deity worship, management, dealing with children, so on and so forth. And even there you will see, when it comes to letters, there's variation. And it's like, he may tell someone, in fact, I just read, devotees are doing a very nice job. I get this every day, daily, thing about Prabhupada's, incidents, what's called Srila Prabhupada Today. And there it was something that he, in Vrindavan, there was a conflict between 2 managers. I forget the names. And one was a sannyasi, and one was, he was a brahmachari, I believe. And so they were fighting, and Prabhupada heard the matter, and he told the sannyasi Prabhu, what are you doing here? And the sannyasi should not be staying for more than 3 days. You go and preach outside. And then the other devotee, it just so happens he wanted to get out of management. And he told him, no, you stay in Vrindavan. So, so there's no, so when I say it depends, there's really no clear-cut answer. There's no, that, this is the only way, like this in Christianity, this is the only way. We don't do that. So let me go through some points that I had made. And then I also look upon my Guru Maharaj. I assume many of you are his disciples. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. I had a little bit more opportunity because he used to come to Boise every year. And then I also was able to sit in some of the conversations he has with others. And there's some guiding principles that I sort of learned from his interaction with devotees. In fact, there was one time when I was in Delhi, he asked me, this was quite a few years back, he asked me, there was some conflicts going on between devotees and so on and so forth. So he asked me to see if I can help. And in my typical Western style, corporate style, it was like very clear cut, black and white. This Prabhu is at fault and he should be punished, is not the right word, but he should be chastised, so on and so forth. And then finally, Guru Maharaj decides that, so we took it to him. And he did not disagree with the sort of the problem and sort of the resolution, but I saw again and again, not just once, and maybe that's something that we all should adopt, and I've started to do that, and I still fail many times, is he played an equal emphasis that the devotee who has committed, you can say the offense or who has a shortcoming, that his devotional life does not, or he does not get out of devotional life, because people just walk out. That happens. And his always concern was to, ultimately we are in the business of, saving a soul. Something that I found out, so that no matter how much, and we can see that in Prabhupada's life also, and Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj too. I believe the incident in Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's, when he was, managing the mutt, is that there was some brahmachari who had committed almost like an abominable, offense, and his quote unquote, managers under him, they didn't bring it up to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. They just took things into their hand, and they severely chastised him to the point that that brahmachari left. And then they brought the matter to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. You know what the first thing he asked? He said, "Where's the brahmachari?" They told me he left. He said, "Well, then what good it is? We really didn't solve the problem. Because the problem was him, and it's very easy to click. I mean, that's why I say corporate management is in some very easy. Boise Temple is very small. I think all of you are from huge temples, and I really want to thank personally myself that all of you are doing such a hard and very commendable job managing all these big temples. But regardless of the size, even Boise Temple at any one time, if we have like 8 initiated devotees, they come and go, then I think we got a full house. But even to manage 6 or 7 devotees is much tougher than say managing a corporate department. And I think the answer is probably very simple. In corporate, the whip works. You hire and you fire. You don't do this. These are your objectives. These are your goals. You're fired. In temple life, I found out in some ways the hard way. You cannot fire anyone. The word fire is not there. Because those Prabhus and Mataji will tell you, don't come between me and my Guru. This is what I got from my Guru. Have you gone through that? Any feedback? Am I on the right track? I mean, I always want to check myself because I can keep on going. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Please go ahead.
Okay. So there's some top level guiding principles that generally the problem occurs, and I'm talking about problems right now, rather than priorities as such. And even priorities is there's always people involved. There's always devotees involved. And so one of the guiding principles is to see that we do minimum harm or damage. There might be some, and there is. I mean, that's a fact, because we still have egos. Most of us are not pure devotees. We are maybe. I tell myself I'm somewhere between Kanishta and Madhyam. I'm not even Madhyam. I'm almost a Kanishta. And so we have to make sure, and then we have to tolerate, and we have to make sure that in solving the problem, and so we don't hurt devotee, and the devotees will tell you that I'm following my Guru Maharaj's instruction. In fact, GBC, when I was in the strategic planning for a while, and I gave up because of many things. One of the topics was to, in terms of organization management, the conflict between Guru telling his devotee, his disciple, and the temple president telling the same person what to do. So that is again prioritization in some ways. And on that, I believe GBC also came around with that. And in my spiritual life, sitting in Boise, I mean, Guru Maharaj came every year, spent a couple of days. But on a day-to-day basis, there was a sannyasi. He's initiating Guru, but he stopped initiating a long time back. Ganpati Swami. And a very well-read, Prabhupada Nagam, a very excellent Sankirtan leader and everything else. And I learned from him afterwards, I think, is also saying that he came, this is before I even knew it, like sort of GBC existed, sort of thing. When we opened the temple in '86 at the center, and he started helping us in starting '87, or even right after we opened it. And we were doing a festival in India in the university. It was a big thing for us. First time, just me and my wife. There were only 2-3 devotees. We had rented a big hall, and we were just trying to take this giant step. And Maharaj, we had called him. He said he'll come, and he came. He parked his camper. He travels in a camper, and he came inside. We were so happy that he was here. It's like finally find that there's someone who could guide us. And he came, and after just looking around, and I told him what we were doing. And then the first thing he said, which just took me sort of aback, I was just like, wow. I mean, he said, "Now, can you please tell me what I should do? What do you want me to do?" And I almost started as a Maharaj. We want to know from you what we should do. And he could sense, he said, no. He said, Prabhupada has said that when a sannyasi comes to a temple, and then I found that there's actually a quotation in that books I remember, that when a sannyasi comes to the temple, he should, I think he uses the word should, that he should do or follow what the temple management or the temple president wants him to do or say. And I know our Guru Maharaj also, when it comes to Boise, and I'll tell you one more thing before I forget. At my age, I get these senior moments. I forget what the trend was or the thought that I was going. But Maharaj always comes, and while I take him from the airport to the temple, he'll always ask, like as a very expert manager, within 5 minutes, we have a very small drive, from the airport to the temple. He said, "Well, how's temple? How are you doing? How can I help you? Tell me, who should I talk to? Whom do you want me to pacify just." And to add to that, when I worked at HP, we were a very big division at that time. Laser jet printers were all sold and sort of assembled there. It was the sort of the cash cow for HP for a long, long time. And our CEO, John Young, and even Hewlett and Packard, they would come, in the corporate plane. They would land. We would have an all employees meeting. We had a big quadrangle, and then, but the first thing they would do when they got off the plane and came to our campus, the first half an hour they would spend with the top, the directors of the site, so on and so forth, and the next half hour with the local managers, trying to find out what are the issues on this campus, and then talk to the employees. So all I'm saying is that I'm not sure, and I can want to hear the feedback if anyone of you have you gone through that kind of a conflicts. But there, the guidelines are pretty clear. Now it's very difficult, and that's where the sort of the skills come in, interpersonal skills, to really tell a sannyasi, a guru, that I need help with your disciple, or he should be doing this, so on and so forth. Okay, but basically, that's one thing is that so it's very difficult to hire and fire a devotee. Actually, I've also, devotees and boys here told me, it's not even guru. He said, "You're coming between me and Krishna." I said, "Prabhuji, I'm sorry. I really apologize." So, so those are some very practical issues in terms of prioritization, because if there are two services, because all of you are leaders, and I assume you have some management position, that there are two things that need to be done, and unless you do it yourself, it means it's involving one or two or three or four devotees. And so that interpersonal skills and keeping in mind, the devotee and what's going in his mind. Okay, so with that, let me go through the list that I had made. So yeah, so it depends on time, place, circumstance. The other sort of guiding principle that I have used, and that also, Rupa has always said that. There are many articles. How many of you know about Stephen Covey? Anyone? He passed away, a very well-known consultant in the corporates, very well-known. And the unique thing was, I mean, corporates do not like a mention of religion, spirituality, but he openly used to say that he was a Mormon. Mormons are almost like Hare Krishnas. Very, very conservative, very, very sort of pious, very, fixed. They have regulative principles, so on and so forth. And he would openly, and people could tell that he was using some of the Mormon guidelines. But he did a survey, and he said, and this I think also applies in some ways to the material conflicts. But he said he did a survey as to which families are most happy, or which individual people are most happy. Forget the family, but he says, if you come to me and say, "Prabhuji, I'm having a problem, this and that," and he did a survey, and he said it depends, his happiness or his level of conflicts, less or more, depends on what is in the center of his life. And the book is there, and in the appendix he draws those circles. And I think answer to all of you must be obvious. He said many people their friends are the center, and he's talking from an American perspective. They go to office, they have their group of friends, and they work together, and after 5 o'clock they go to the bar together, and then he stumbles back into his home, say 8 or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. You think his life would be happy? He might be. But the thing is, he said his center was his friends. He said there are other people whose center of life is just work, the workaholics. And we devotees get like that, especially management. Okay, there are other people whose center of life are their parents. Are they happy? Now, if you're married, the Matajis will tell you, this conflict. आप जो है सिर्फ मम्मी पापा से बात करते हो, मुझसे बात नहीं करते. You don't talk to me. You don't talk to children. Where if his center of life is the wife, then parents. And then he says, so the happiness sort of goes up, at least we're coming in the family. But then he said the people who were most content, happy, or peaceful, he said, if for them, the church was in the center. Okay. And so in Journey of Self-Discovery, is one of my favorite articles. Rupa, I think, spoke to some university students, Northeastern University, I believe in Boston. And I think that the title of the article is Center of Your Life. And he says there, and it clicked me so well. He said, if we keep Krishna in the center, then life, eventually, there might be struggles, but will be more peaceful. And I've heard Maharaj say that also, and I've memorized it. He said, in a temple environment, he said the deities are the glue. Those are the exact words. Deities are the glue that keeps the temple and devotees together. So, having said all that, any comments, any feedback, any raised hands, please let me know. Okay. I've already taken most of my time on this one. But anyway, the prioritization is again, keep in mind, Prabhupada also says that he and Maharaj always has that. Is it whatever we are doing, which one will have the maximum impact in terms of glorification of Srila Prabhupada and or glorification of Iskcon? We'll always have our personal egos and differences, but ultimately, I've been in many meetings, and one of the favorite sentences of Gopal Maharaj is, can we all just cooperate for Srila Prabhupada? Forget our differences. So in terms of priorities, if you have two things going on, will that make the sort of the deities service go down? Will it hurt the reputation of temple, or in the sense? And again, I'm more dwelling on sort of the conflicts, but is ultimately it's not the temple in Boise or Delhi. The outside person looks at Iskcon. So the other thing is in terms of prioritization. So what is which will have the most impact? Which can be done in the least amount of time with the least amount of Lakshmi. Lakshmi is always an issue, especially in small temples. If you got $200 in a month in our donation box, we were doing pretty good. And so those are some things, but there are things that I've written down here. So prioritize in terms of cooperation between devotees, glorifying Prabhupada and Iskcon, making sure nobody leaves Iskcon with our actions. So priorities. Think globally and act locally. What happens with devotees? This is what they do in Mayapur. Or this is it's a good example, but then adapt again, time, place, circumstance to our local conditions. And then on a personal basis, one should also make sure that our personal sadhana does not go down. But even that is subject to negotiation, the quality of it. I can give you my personal example. Me and my wife, just two of us, two small children, we started it. We struggled for a lot of years. The quantity was there, quality was not there. And I used to feel a lot of guilt about that. And the interesting thing is Krishna will help you. It's almost like you see in the back of the Bhagavad Gita, the quotations from Mahatma Gandhi that when things are haunting me and and you open a page in the Gita and the answer is there. And I would, Leelamrit is my favorite book, especially condensed one. And then, but I came across, this is something that's really troubling me. I believe Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he came to Prabhupada once, and I believe he was in the middle of the construction of either Vrindavan Temple or Mayapur, Juhu. And he said, Prabhupada, I want to get out of construction. He said, why? He said, I cannot get my rounds done. Yeah, he said, I'm doing my rounds and I'm thinking, I have to get cement and I have to pay this one, and and that contractor is ripping me off. And Prabhupada didn't even bat, his eyelashes. He said, that's thinking about Krishna. Because the 16 rounds of chanting is to focus us on Krishna. And as managers, we are always focused on Krishna and his devotees and doing the best for the deities. So, but does not belittle the point that that we have to maintain our sadhana, because that is our armor as leaders to protect us from all the arrows that come from all different directions. But on the other hand, if once in a while we bleed, it is bleeding for Krishna, we're doing the right thing. I'm going to stop here on this topic before somebody else has anything. Any questions? I'd like to otherwise, or any comments. Okay. We move on.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So relationships with devotees, since we're on the devotees subject, it just so happens, I think that is a sort of current issue. For the last 3 days, I've been giving classes, and it is coming there, and I think times have changed. To me, the biggest issue right now, worldwide, devotees, non-devotees, even with, is, in fact, can anyone say what is the biggest issue in life right now in the world is? Anyone take a wild guess?
Wars going on, Prabhu?
No. That war has been there all along. World War I, II, III, and Mahabharata and everything else.
Ignorance.
Ignorance? No. That I'm talking sort of on a personal level, and I guess maybe I'm not framing the question right. But the biggest issue right now, yeah, Prabhuji is saying that. He's probably heard me, but he knows as much as I do, or more than I do, is loneliness. Despite the Facebook, despite the Instagram, despite the 1,000 friends you have, likes in the sect, actually technology is making us even more lonely. 40% of all the people, we got a group of about 20 here, that at least 8 to 10 devotees here are very lonely. I get very lonely. In old age, nobody wants to talk to you. Okay, I have to call Rishi once in a while. He's sitting here. Talk to me. Is loneliness. Because the technology is very one way. And so relation with devotees, the relationships will improve if, amongst all the things, if we can find time to sit down with the devotee and just, dadati pratiganati, goyam goitmya akyati prachati. If we just do that, devotees and people are looking for that. Now it's a very risky business because the question that a follow-up question I get in the discussions is, Prabhuji, but there's too much time. And sometimes they keep on going, it's non-stop. So that is a different skill, how you, and the best way to stop that is understand what it is, and then gradually lead him or her to a page, an article in Prabhupada's books. That's why it's very important that we should read Prabhupada's books. In fact, I was telling this example in the classes. We had our Namat in Boise in the early days, and there was this one, new congregation members. He came, and everyone was gone. 8:45, and he just argued with me, and I was arguing back. I was a new devotee. It's like, the egos were there. I was just, slamming him, this is how you should do it and everything else. My wife was standing in the corner listening to everything, but he didn't interrupt. She didn't interrupt. And finally, like 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, she finally came out. And she had signs of self-realization, and she already had opened a page in it. And she literally thrust that into that member's face. He said, Krishnan, read that, and then you come and talk. And he just, me and both, she had brought to a sort of nice conclusion. And then he left, and then she downloaded on me. He said, why did you keep her? He said, Prabhupada has said, and there's actually a quote. He said, what good is your talking? Give them my book. But see, but people will not take book right away nowadays. So you have to have the conversation and you lead them to a book. And then because Prabhupada is an authority, they will not accept you or me per se. And so I've spoken too much. I'm going to stop. But it's in terms of relationship, be friends, invite them for dinner. Go to their house, try to have them open up. Okay. Huh? Yeah. How many of you are doing that? That's, and again, I keep on coming back to Gopal Maharaj. Can I give, we have time. He came to America. I think many of you know that. And we were very concerned about his health. In fact, he told us, he said, he used to go to almost every center where his disciples are. He came to Boise, even though very small, every year. A year after we opened, he found out we had done that, and he used to come. And so he said this time he picked very strategically 2 spots in the East and 2 spots in the West, one in the US, one in Canada. And he kept me saying that, he said, I may just only go to one place, and if my health is not there, I may fly right back. And he landed after a 16-hour flight, so looked very tired. Any regular person will be tired. And so went into his car, you could tell, and he acknowledged everyone, but that was it. But then he went to temple, and I guess in that 1 hour, he had rested about it. Like he's a transcendental personality. He walked out, devotees welcomed him. He gave a welcoming address, met with all the devotees there. Initially, we wanted to do a convention that Maharaj, because we said Maharaj will not be able to meet with all the devotees, this and that. So let's do a convention where he sits on a dais and we just chant and he can just give a lecture and everything else. And half of us kind of knew that he would reject that. Art is very personal. He said, no, I don't want to, I want to stay in the temple and meet devotees. So he came, Baltimore, where he was the center was, and I was there too, because I didn't want to risk the chance that maybe he leaves after the first one. I was being very selfish. And we were there. The largest group of devotees was there, about 300 devotees. And he had 5 days. And he did GBC meetings there. There's some urgent issues. He did initiations, he did interviews. But he constantly met devotees. So just imagine meeting devotees on a personal level, 250 of them, about 6 hours every day. And I was, because my son is also a servant, so I had a little bit, more privileged to see what was going on in the room and sitting my son doing that. He spent with some 20 minutes, some with 2 minutes, but no one left unhappy. No one felt that he was ignored. They all came out smiling that, wow, Maharaj has given me the right solution. Okay. And the interesting thing was, he got done early. And then he would send Gopal Hari, go look outside. Is there anyone else that I've not talked to? Bring them in. And then he said, well, what's wrong? Bring devotees in. Nobody else is there. So again, I'm not saying that we copy him, Anusaran, not Anukaran, that we follow him, especially the leaders. Okay. I'm going to stop here on this topic. Any question, comments? If there are no question or comments, it means either you didn't understand or it went over your head. Either way. Zoom does that. It's a very one-way street, and that's why I don't like it too much. This balancing material life and spiritual life is a big topic in itself. And I have a 40-slide presentation, which we will not do right now because it's 9 o'clock. We have half an hour. I definitely want to leave 15 minutes at the end. So we'll stop at 9:15 for discussion or Q&A. To talk about that. But let me start with I think a couple of Matajis talked about issues with relatives. That's real. That will happen. It will not go away. No matter if you run away from home and come to the temple. I've seen relatives come to the temple and talk to Maharaj. My son is not talking to me, or this and that. And so it cannot be ignored. The first word that comes to mind, it has to be tolerated. See, there are what 26 qualities of devotees. Of those 26, the top two that are on the top, Gita has a list, and they are the hardest to come by. They come the latest. Is humility and tolerance. And if nothing else, the conflict in material life, even if you were a materialist, we learn tolerance and humility from father-in-laws and daughter-in-laws and mother-in-laws and so forth. How do we tolerate it? It's the many techniques and many ways we can do that. Let me give you my example. The very early days, the first time when we went back after we were initiated, came back to Jaipur. My father and mother were there. They knew about it, but they had not sort of experienced it, and they had not become devotees yet. The hope is there. What I can tell you from my example, that at the end, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel, they will support you, they will become devotees, they will become your best supporters. You can believe that. And so my father, who always kept very much quiet, and he would see us in the morning or at least half a day, chanting, right? That is our security blanket. We just we take this, right? And we just put one finger through, and we're doing this. And he could not resist. He saw that for 2-3 days, and he said, घर में खाना बनाते हो ना, काम करते हो ना? मैंने कहा, did you all understand that? You make food at home? And my wife was standing there too, so he was kind of heading towards her. मैंने कहा क्या हुआ? हाँ सब करते हैं कि देखता हूँ तुम्हारा सीधा हाथ हमेशा झोली में रहता है, काम कब करते हो? Yeah, he said, yeah, I see that, but your right hand, and generally we work with right hand, is always in this bead bag. When do you do the work? So they had their ways of letting us know that. That was ultimately is okay. We came for a week, 2 weeks, and fine, and we go, and then okay. They came to America, and they saw the children being homeschooled. We'll talk more about it this evening in Gurugram. And same thing. They're not going to school. When will they learn? How will they know how to interact in society? A whole bunch of very sharp questions. And I would try to explain, but my wife, because she is the one who started that, and I was supporting her. I had my own questions. Yeah, my question was the same thing, that are they also doing mathematics, science, and so on and so forth. But I was more or less supporting her. And the support was staying out of her way, mostly. Anyway, and so, but she kept quiet. Generally, जो सास बहू के बीच में जो झगड़ा होता है, it didn't happen like that. And she kept quiet for what, at least 3 years, 4 years. And then, results speak for themselves. And within 5 years, our older son, and the younger one too, was right into college. And then all the opposition was gone. So by example, by following, by that achar and prachar, by our to elders, we preach by our achar, by staying humble, by respecting their authority, by respecting their age, and praying to Krishna very hard, and Guru to help us go through that through this phase. And they did. And then my father and mother, same thing. I can give you another example. Examples are better than speaking a whole lot. When my father and mother came to America, we had a small apartment. The only reason we took that apartment because it had the owner, it was a duplex. So the front part we rented, the back part we stayed. But the only reason my wife picked that place was it was next to the university, and the owner had converted the two-car garage into a big family room. So she saw this is where the preaching center would be. And so the rest of the house was just two small bedrooms and one living room and small kitchen. And so my parents would come and we would give them one bedroom, and then all four of us would go in the other room. Like in Delhi, it happens all the time. In India, there's no problem. And they didn't mind that. But then they would be invited to our friends who were all congregation members, materialists, and they would go there, and these are big houses, 3,000 square feet, all those things. And my mother would come back and say, oh, उसका living room इतना बढ़िया था, मतलब हमारे यहाँ खाली ये तखत पड़ा हुआ है, उनके पास ये था, उनके पास वो था. And I would just listen. And then we bought the next property to us, and then in the middle of those two properties is land, and we built Boise Temple there. And then my father had passed away. Then my mother came for the inauguration and everything else. And then I just couldn't resist, and I said, "Ma, ye dekho ye hai. Aap kehti thi ki living room nahi hai." And she just passed away. So I said, "Here's a living room." And every week we get 200 guests. And every week we're holding, almost a marriage ceremony, full prasadana. She didn't say anything after that. She was our biggest support. So please, you and Krishna will give you the intelligence. We hear about prayers. So from a spiritual perspective, besides the interpersonal skills, that is, Krishna will help. Krishna does help. And he does guide. So it's like 9:15 almost. I'm going to stop here. I didn't cover all the topics. Like I said, the other topic, the big balancing is a separate class by itself. And I'm not ready to show my slides to you, on Zoom. So I'll open up to Q&A, feedback. Tell me, was it good, bad, if nothing else, where I can improve and everything else. So Hare Krishna Prabhu, please take over. I guess you are the moderator.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So is my voice clear? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm hearing my own voice. Okay, so I have a question for you, Prabhu. You talked about homeschooling. It looks kind of very attractive at first thought. But when I think of it more, it starts to look scary and not practical, especially in the Indian scenario. although we have an example in this group, Bharti Mataji, she's homeschooling her kids. But when I think of it, it kind of looks not practical. So is my thought correct, or or I mean, not right.
No, you have a very valid point. Very valid point that this is more suited for America, not for India. I think that also in some ways. I used to think that, but India is changing. Okay. And the thing about being scared, you're right. Actually, in this, the fourth shloka of the Nectar of Instruction, Updesha Mitra, that we just discussed briefly, Prabhupada in the purport, he writes, he said, this entire organization was started by one person. He didn't name himself. So when there's a will, there's a way. And over the years, and I have some suggestions, some variations. Okay, it's like time, place, circumstance. So the idea is good, but we cannot flatly say that it will not apply here. But yes, variations are there. And again, this is not the subject matter of this class. So if you're in Gurgaon, we can talk about it this evening. But the variation, and I have actually, that's where me and my wife, we diverge in our speeches. And she told me, you're not coming to my classes because people expect me to speak. And then we have some differences on approaches, the father's approach and mother's approach. And so that's why you don't see both of us together. There's only one time initially did, and after she said, I'm going to speak of homeschooling, you will not. Now I've kept that, so I've changed the subject to parenting. And you'll never see me, my slide with homeschooling. Anyway, that was a mutual agreement. So yes, there are variations, and there are ways you can do that, partial. But the other thing is basically the thing that most of us are afraid of, and that's part of this material conflict, is not only America, but in India also, the schools have become horrible. They're a place for drugs, abuse, violence. There's hardly any teaching. And I can go on and on. Again, we'll diverge. So we devotees have to lead the way. And we see what Ajit Kaunda Prabhu, this series on writing good books. And there are other ways of doing a combination. Okay? So please don't get disheartened. You and I can't talk separately. I'm here for a whole week. I'm leaving next Thursday actually. But it's a good subject, and there is hope. Anyone else?
So, Prabhuji, regarding maintaining or balancing between the two tasks, can we conclude, like, as you said, like with the examples, when you met people come and say why you are coming between my guru and me. So the instructions or the need of the local temple should always be given a priority.
Yes. The needs of the local temple. Think globally, act locally. Okay, and so if you ever come to Boise, I can show you. It's a mini everything that I traveled a whole lot due to HP. My goal was something you can do. Is I wanted to. I don't know why I set the goal. I want to see the 108 temples that Prabhupada sort of started to build, and I left it to Banke Bihari, and I did not pay a single dollar. In my travels, I did 108 temples, and from every temple, I picked up something. And if you come to Boise, I can tell you this thing came out of the thing that I saw somewhere else, or this practice came out of there. So,
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? So yeah, we can start. We can stop 10 minutes early. That's no problem.
Yeah, there is a comment on chat box.
Yeah, I don't see a question. It
Yeah,
is,
there is no question, sir, comment. Yeah.
yeah, so that's very nice of, Mataji, but,
Rati Manjari Prema.
huh?
Rati Manjari Prema.
Rati Manjari.
She is one of normal says.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
yeah. Thank you for your comment.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam Prabhuji.
Yeah,
Last question.
what, yeah,
This entire homeschooling, whatever is the idea is to generally the gents who work, males who work in the offices, they don't have any time to give the responsibility or take the responsibility to nurture the children or in the homeschooling way. But this is the mothers who stay at home, they have a lot of time. If they have that responsibility, if they have that inner
you're cutting off.
desire to then it will become success. This is what I understand, Prabhuji, because only Matajis who can take that responsibility can impart such thing. Then it will
Yeah.
become successful.
And so that's a very good point. In fact, it is part of the balancing material spiritual life. Prabhupada has specifically said, now he always says one husband, only husband should work. And now we can say in this age of equal gender, so on and so forth, I always say one spouse. Okay? I mean,
Yes,
I can cook. So I wouldn't have any problem if I just stay at home and cook. Okay? But the thing is, we say simple living, high thinking, and I know there are issues. Yeah, Delhi is so expensive, and Mumbai is so expensive, Dubai is so expensive. But somehow, and so just think about it. And I did that economic analysis, honestly, with a couple in Luxembourg, because the Mataji was so pressured by her own peers, her friends, girlfriends in Luxembourg. They were from Mauritius, and her family members. Oh, I should work. I should work. But very quickly, I think some of you may be accountants, and I went through. I said, "What are they going to pay you?" And you can take one of. And I did that once in Gurgaon. Somebody in person. You're going to get, say, 50,000 rupees a month, and women generally get paid a little bit less. He said, "Now," I said, "Now all of a sudden." No. So by the way, raising children is also work.
Yes, Prabhuji. It's
Okay.
a great response.
And you get rewards later. It's like the pension. You have to save, you have to cut back, so you get rewards later that you can get a monthly payment. And so, so the whole issue is, out of the 50,000 rupees I said, now all of a sudden you have to buy one more car, right? The husband goes in car and you're not going to walk, right? Or take a bus. Yes, you're going to pay for parking, right? Now you're going to pay for children's, what you call babysitting, right? How much is that? Then both of you go, and the doctor's bills go up. The biggest source of children getting sick is they bring infections from the school. In America, I know children are on constant antibiotics every other month. Then what IRS or the over here too will take taxes. Now you have got two incomes, going to a higher bracket. And then the biggest issue is this. What are you doing for, right? Money and say is both of you going to come back. Who's going to cook? You both are going to eat outside. Maybe Sunday in the temple, outside. Besides contamination and impurities, how much is a regular meal cost? And I said, then you do the calculation, and we did that. At the end of the day, of the month, they would maybe have 3,000 or 4,000 rupees left. I said, is that worth it? And then you fight with each other. I'm tired and you're tired. You're not doing a share of work. So if we use our intelligence, Prabhupada is never wrong. Now, he said it from a spiritual perspective, and I'm telling you from a material perspective. Really working 2 jobs. And if you're that way high up executives, then there's no home life. Why did you get married? Forget that, even if you don't have children. So anyway, now I'm getting sensitive. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah, you have 2 more hands. We have time.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Bharati Mataji or
Hare Krishna.
yes.
Namaskar, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. This was really a wonderful class. So many doubts cleared. I have one more doubt. That if we are serving with a devotee who most of the time finds fault with others, but we don't want to indulge in that, so what should we do in that case?
The fault finding?
Somebody indulges in fault finding. You don't want to give the person the
Honestly, I used to be like that, being temple president. And I was into this right and this right. I've suffered a lot. I've been told that we tolerate, but again, the fault finding is at different levels. And it really depends, but most of the time the answer is we tolerate. जैसे वो कहते हैं ना, एक कान से सुना दूसरे कान से निकाल दिया. And then maybe talk to his or her Guru Maharaj if they come and visit. Most gurus I know, if they know their disciples are at the temple, they try to come to the temple itself. And the other thing is in fault finding is if it cannot be ignored, Prabhupada writes that your own correction comes if they're junior to you, if they're equal to you in terms of age and initiation, this and that. Then you talk to a senior devotee and let's see if they can handle it, and then talk to their guru. That's like general things that come to my mind off the bat. It's a good question and a very pertinent question, by the way. It is. Radharani Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thanks for the wonderful experience you have shared with us. Prabhuji, I have a question regarding the college life. Means like I have homeschool my kids, especially in 11th, 12th, though they both were science students. But like now one of them is in college, another one will be moving in a year or 2 to the college. So how will these children will manage in the college, because the same scenario is in the college also, or even worse it's there.
Yes. In Delhi temple, when I do class counseling, Maharaj wants me to do that. One of the top questions that come in, and I've seen several examples that the devotees spent, their blood, sweat, and tears, and the kids were very nice in temple. They took part in temple activities, and they went to the college, and they came back, said, Mama, I want to let you know I'm going to start eating chicken and eggs. And I've talked to those devotees. They said, Prabhuji, you do not know what went in our hearts. Where did we go wrong? The problem is not the parents. It's not the child. One word answer is association, association, association. My comeback was, and then they tried to preach to the boy and try to, force convert him, then nothing would work because now they're adults. What I tell in these cases, and then I'll tell you the sort of general thing, is I said, try to find a devotee of his or her age on campus itself. Now, thanks, at least in Delhi, thanks to Guru Maharaj and all the other devotees in the Gopal Prabhu, we have bases in every reputable college. if he makes friendship with a devotee, because he made friends with, in this one case that I'm talking about, somehow he made friends with a Muslim boy. Association, and overnight the boy changed him. So the association is very important in our cases. Okay, and again, this is subject for evening, and we will take up time. So I'm going to stop here. But there's some real life examples. So yes, it's a valid concern. Don't send them out of town till you think they're mature enough. They may be mature enough to go to college, but not mature enough to emotionally. Okay. So I'm very particular about time, being from America. So it's like 9:28, and I think we should stop here. And especially all of you are on Zoom, and so everything else. But thank you for listening. If I say something wrong, please forgive me. Maybe we'll do it once more sometime else.
We can do it. Hare Krishna. I know this is, I'm gate crashing into Prabhuji's time. But for those of you who have seen him on Zoom, you can see him in room in the evening. Prabhuji will be visiting our Sector 45 temple. He'll be conducting a session on the art of parenting. So what I would like you all to do is to, of course, bring your respective families. And at the same time, those families that are probably connected through the summer camp, they could all be invited in case they may be interested. The other question is, like, some devotees are asking if they can have this session hybrid. So, Dina Sudham Prabhu, you might want to see how we can explore that and ensure that the devotees want to listen to this lecture. And it's important for me that, because I've been giving you many of these sessions, but it's important. I felt that some of you should also associate with people who have experienced Krishna consciousness from your ashram. So that is very, very important. And we will continue to have similar sessions once in a while, because if it's online, Prabhuji can sometimes maybe do it from the West also. It shouldn't be a problem. So शाम को सब आए, जरूर 7 से 8:30 तक कोशिश करेंगे बाकी लोगों को भी उत्साह बढ़ाएं, प्रेरणा दें. Dina Sudham Prabhu, you wanted to say something? You just unmuted yours.
Yeah, so we will try to run in a hybrid mode.
Yeah.
Over the Zoom, or we will do a YouTube live, so others can take benefit of the session.
Yeah. Swadhyaya Prabhu is also saying he's from Andhra.
So let me tell you about the hybrid session. Some people speakers are very good. I'm not. So I will speak as if hybrid does not exist. So I'm not going to contain myself, because to look at the camera, it's for the cameraman or whoever it is to do that, because otherwise I don't get that freedom to do what I want.
Deen Sudha Prabhu, we'll talk personally how to conduct a hybrid mode. Right? Okay. Because
Thank you, Prabhuji, for joining Prabhuji and Mataji. So Hare Krishna Prabhu, over to you, and see you all in the evening.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. We'll thank His Grace Ananta Rupa Prabhu and Rishi Kumar Prabhu for conducting this great session. So we'll chant one mantra for Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Ram, Ram, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much.
One last thing, I just want to say, it was running in my mind. You, Prabhuji, you look like more similar to Prabhupada.
No, please do not.
It was going in my mind.
We will keep me up for the drama next year.
I'm going to leave
I must have heard it from other as well.
Hare Krishna.